This is Theories and Applications of Organizational Communication, and this is our practical application lecture discussing how gender, difference, and intersectionality apply to the real-world challenge of climate change. Climate change impacts have harmful impacts on communities through extreme weather events such as droughts and floods that destroy communities and reduce access to water and food. Rigid gender roles make people more vulnerable to extreme weather. Climate change puts pressure on people without power, and women traditionally have, and still in most places in the world have, less power. Many organizations discourage women from taking decision-making positions, which means that women's needs and the resources they need are not a primary part of the decision-making process, because there are few or no women present to advocate for them or even to make their needs known. Women also generally have less money, fewer opportunities, and are not prioritized by policymakers who disproportionately prioritize men. This means that women's needs under climate change impacts get less of a response or no response at all, and women will have less money and opportunities to protect themselves. There are a few extreme examples of this, such as how in some places, during droughts, women and girls are forced to walk further, often in the dark, to fetch water, which puts them at risk of violence. There are cultures where men eat and drink first, and so women get less water and food during times of shortages. In many countries, women are not taught to swim, so they are at greater risk during floods and rising sea levels. However, in some rare circumstances, such as heat-related illnesses in the United States, men are twice as likely to die because they are more likely to work outside on farms and building sites. When responding to climate change, organizations should be encouraged to try and follow a gender-responsive approach for adaptation that shares wealth and resources equally and ensures fair representation in environmental decision-making. Also, women, on average, pollute less and are more involved in climate action. And countries where women have a stronger political voice, there tends to be faster climate action. Minority or disenfranchised groups are also harder hit under climate change. For instance, climate change, as we've seen, disproportionately affects those who suffer socioeconomic inequalities, which include many people of color, for instance. In the United States, African American and other low-income communities are disproportionately affected by air pollution, living closer to natural gas facilities or near commercial facilities that produce emissions and traffic. Ocean acidification impacts, when the natural pH of the ocean water is lowered due to increased CO2 levels, are amplified in some coastal Native American tribes, in some coastal regions. And Native American tribes who live along those coasts have their diets and economy impacted that generally rely on seafood. After major disasters in the United States, white counties saw higher levels of reinvestment in their communities after natural disasters compared to their minority counterparts. Large-scale climate change responses are largely dictated by organizations, companies, governments, advocacy groups. And the way we operate within those organizations, the way we communicate, who we allow to be heard, whose voices we privilege and include, will influence who gets protected from climate change impacts and who gets support and adaptation. That's it for now. The next topic we're going to cover is organizational change.